What's going on, y'all? I just wanted to kind of touch bases with you, create a video. This will be the first of the series where I talk about, being black and being a father and having, social anxiety, just different anxieties. One of the things that are important that I think should be talked about, within the black community is, black men with anxiety, social anxiety, whatever it may be, could even be PTSD, right? So a lot of different things popped up in my life to let me know, hey, this is something you want to work on. This is something you want to get better with. So I kind of want to go into the first thing, just to kind of share some of my personal experiences with it or whatever. When I was younger, I would do things like, come home, go straight to my bedroom, shut the door, be inside there, barely would come out. Video games, I'd watch wrestling, comedy, all that kind of stuff back then. To me, it was normal. Everything's normal to you when you're a kid, but as I got older, I realized it was a trait of social anxiety. How it messes with my life is nowadays is a little bit different than what it was before. I think, in terms of how it's perceived in the black community, which is an important thing to touch on, is I think, in the black community, we look at it as, you must be scared of talking to people, or, you might be scared of, they look at it as a fear, right? That's something that when you're talking to men, you have to really kind of shy away from when you're talking about anxieties and stuff like that. Because it's a large part of the reason I think that black people don't go get looked at, don't go get help, because it's looked at as a weakness. Some of the stereotypes that I've seen, like I said, you're weak, you're feminine, that's mostly the ones that you'll hear. And it kind of is a tree that you'll see, from the top being a black man with anxiety. So, when you call it weak and you call it feminine, like I said before, the term feminine is a little different, right? It's not necessarily a negative term. It's just used in a degrading way when you're talking about men a lot of the times. So that's a term that we use that is, it more has to do with the person that says it, kind of the meaning behind it, right? Another thing that I wanted, to really talk about is how it is when men try to come out and we try to talk about it and try to express what it could be. This could be you telling your friends, this could be you telling, somebody that somebody that you're dating, you're looking to suit somebody or you're courting somebody and you're trying to explain to them about the social anxiety so that they can understand you a little bit better, which is important. And I think I'll talk about that in another video. But another thing could be even explaining it to your parents, as you get older, or even when you're younger, but something's wrong and you don't know how to tell them. A lot of the times it's perceived, again, like we talked about, as a weakness, which is unfortunate. And that's usually in the back of our mind when we're trying to explain it. The best thing you could ever do is talk to somebody that cares about you, who's open to understanding you, right? Usually, if you're trying to tell your parents stuff like that, what happens is to them, you're saying, hey, you guys did something wrong. And that could be the truth. I got a 3-year-old son. I do whatever I can to make sure that we're not sitting in a building somewhere in 20 years doing family counseling. I do what I can. Well, we're not perfect, right? There's no book. There's no golden book for this, right? You talk to people and you kind of express to them how you feel and kind of what you're going through and stuff like that, which is important, right? But a lot of the times you won't get hit with, okay, explain to me how that happened. What do you think happened? You don't get the what's wrong. How do we fix this? Or you don't get that kind of stuff. The majority of the time, like I said, if you're talking to parents, you're generally going to get the, oh no, everything was good. We gave you this, or we tried to do this, or we did the best we could, yada, yada, stuff like that. And I get how, as a parent, it could feel like a personal attack, It shouldn't, but then again, you got to think about how it was brought up, different things like that. Another thing is friends, that's a big one. You might have friends that are extroverts, right? They don't understand why you're not there every Friday night. And you got to explain to them, hey, it's because, dude, I got to reset. You know what I'm saying? I got to reset. Um, People that you're dating, why don't you want to go out to this bar? Or why don't you want to go out to this, it could be like a lounge or something like that. Why don't you want to go out to the lounge? Well, don't want to be around people, right? And you don't dislike people necessarily, but man, the things that it does to you to be around certain people. You got to recharge. It's difficult. Things happen. And sometimes people can tell the signs, right? If I'm out and my anxiety's kicking, I'm not talking. I'm searching the crowd, looking for ways out. If something were to happen, I'm scanning every person that comes in there. Especially males and stuff like that. Like I'm scanning men to see, is that person, can that person be a potential issue in this club, in this setting? Because I don't know the people, right? And that, that's due to different life events, different things you've seen, been in, different things like that, right? There's a societal norm, right, that black men are, strong and confident and yada, yada, yada. I'm not sure exactly where it comes from. Yes, as a man, women want you to be confident. Your friends and family want you to be confident, right? Sometimes you're just not that strong at the moment, right? I think we have to allow men to have time to be broken, to rebuild ourselves. I think that's healthy to do, right? We watch other people broken rebuild themselves, and we kind of don't bat an eye, right? So I think that is the weight that pushes down on you when you have anxiety. That thing right there, as if social anxiety or different anxieties aren't enough. For us, our thing is, okay, you need God or you're tripping, something like that. It's one of the two. In other ethnic backgrounds, from what I've seen, again, I haven't studied every culture's anthropology and how they, their history and how they handle things, right? But from what I've seen in other communities, I'm going to be honest, particularly the Caucasian community, it's held to a different standard, right? It's more like, hey, something's wrong. You might see them on movies and things like that in family counseling and stuff like that. For us, imagine getting a whole family into counseling, right? It's not always a family thing, right? Sometimes it's that one person, just getting that one person into counseling. It's about it being, looking weak. I think some of those different things they're not going on in other communities, right? It's not necessarily considered weak. It's not considered non-masculine. It's not considered not manly. I can't think of, off the top of my head, any support resources or anything like that that would help black men that are going through this. I think my personal input into this whole thing, my energy that I'm putting in, my goal is to create a conversation. Most of my content is comedic, right? And you'll find with a lot of comedians, they do have issues, right? There's been comedians that have committed suicide, comedians that have died from obesity, drug overdose, different things like that. And some of those things could be linked to, coping mechanisms. Food could be a coping mechanism. Cocaine could be a coping mechanism. Things like that, right? Alcohol, same thing. Go on Google and look it up, because we can talk about excuses and things like that, but there really isn't any excuse to not have any help. It's there. We have some of our jobs even support it, and that the insurance will take care of it and all that. I like having people that you care about that understand, right? I like that. My wife is a big supporter of that, right? I'm able to talk to her. We're old enough now to where we can see some of our flaws and some of our weaknesses. We can really kind of delve into those. So that's another thing. But Google is a good resource. Another thing is keeping positive people around you. A lot of this stuff should be foundational in life, but it's not. Most of us have negative people around us. Most of us have, those types of issues. Most of us are in relationships that could be physically, mentally, or verbally abusive. There's a lot of that, especially younger. When you start getting into your mid to late 30s, things tend to shift, right? You tend to know what you need, men and women, right? One of the things I will say, I hit on in the last topic, but coping mechanism for me is being around people that feed your energy and don't take away from it. People that understand you in general, right? That have similar interests, right? That aren't afraid to tell you what you're good at. That, they'll say, oh, you're really good at this. I got friends that'll, we'll be talking and they'll say, man, you were really good at this. I don't even know how you did this, right? My son, he's really good with like clay and stuff like that. Like he'll make clay figures and stuff. So one of the things that I see my wife do, which is an important thing, right? If you're married, somebody who understands that kind of stuff, right? She pours into that. She's been buying Play-Doh and stuff like that. He's 3. She's buying Play-Doh left and right to just continue to, and then every time he makes something cool, telling him how great it is, right? And kind of challenging him to do better, challenging him to make, bigger and better things. I'm not saying, people need to feed your ego, but what I'm saying is positive people that don't bring up the negative all the time. There's somebody who understands that social anxiety is part of a bigger picture, which is anxiety. And a lot of us, we don't like change either. We don't like change. We don't like random people coming over the house. We don't like if there's a social interaction coming about, we need to know about it and be prepared a few days in advance. It gets that bad, right? So for coping, for me, I will take myself out of a situation. When I'm at social gatherings or social events, people know I will go into another room for 30 minutes and just sit there and be on my phone or just chill or watch TV or something like that, just to get away from all the social interaction. Then I go back and whatever. So another coping mechanism is you might drink a little bit, right? Drinking kind of takes the edge off, and it's not something I recommend because I don't recommend alcohol, right? I can't sit here on YouTube and recommend beer, recommend, Hennessy, vodka, whatever, right? But they're at parties. It's a reality. So the people being able to break away, taking themselves out of scenarios, it's more easier for me to flip that switch when I'm in social interactions. Meaning I can get frustrated real quick. I can take something wrong, and you end up in an argument and you're tripping out. But whatever they said was something that wouldn't have been an issue for anybody else, but for some reason it is for you. So you flipped, right? And I look back on scenarios where I've done that, and it's not. It looks very weak to me. It looks very weak to me. When I look back on it, I'm not proud of those scenarios. These are things that, happened in my life that it is what it is. There have been plenty of things. I wish I can go back and take them away. I grew up looking at men. There's a few men I can think of off the top of my head where I looked at them and went, that is a man right there. And one of the things they did not do, I didn't see them yell, for sure not at their wife, but I didn't see them yell. Everything that they did was, it was just, it's done. It was just very clean cut. It was just a masculine energy. And I thought to myself, that's how I want to be. They didn't flip out on things. They were able to they would argue with somebody, but it was more of a debate and it wasn't loud, right? Hey, this needs to be done like this. You can't do it like that. They didn't need to yell. They knew how to talk to people, right? And in the Black community, that's something that I'm not gonna say it's frowned upon, but it's not a skill we have. So me growing up, when I saw that as a kid, I thought that was amazing, right? It was just something that, that I wanted to emulate later on, and I knew it. I think the very, 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 very first change that needs to be made, take away the term feminine from mental health. Let's take away the term masculine from mental health. So we need to take gender away from that, right? Those two terms are great terms. None of those are negative terms, and they shouldn't be determining factors in mental health unless you're talking about a statistic, right? Maybe men might have this more, or women might have this more. But feminine traits are great, masculine traits are great, right? For everybody. But if we're talking about mental health, let's take away those terms, right? When we're talking about it negatively, that's the main thing. And let's also take the term weakness away from it. And I say that'd be the most important term to take away from it, right? Your strength or your weakness, or your ability to protect your family, or your ability to protect your girlfriend, or your boyfriend, right? All that type of stuff shouldn't be in the discussion. Should be in the discussion. So I guess that's kind of wraps up my first video. I just wanted to talk about some things. I think these type of videos are important because it's really good I was reading a Reddit thread, and there was a lot of people on there, all different races, right? Because this is a broad discussion for everybody, right? I just think for us, we don't talk about it enough. There were people that were literally happy to read somebody type about it and know that other people, are going through the same thing that they're going through. So I think for this kind of topic for me, that's why I'll continue it, is that people need to see other people talk about this. And let me know in the comments, as the channel grows, let me know in the comments, kind of what this did for you, if anything, what other topics that I should talk about. I'm not a PhD. I'm not a specialist in the field or anything like that. The only thing I can give you is what I have going on. That's it. Or what I've seen. That's it. Can't give you any facts. If you do want any facts, you got to look them up or ask a doctor. But I do recommend anybody who's watching this that suffers from any mental health problems to seek help if you're not already.